Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce our distinguished keynote speaker today, Ambassador Mark Brzezinski. With over 30 years of diplomatic experience, Ambassador Brzezinski has served in numerous senior positions in the US Department of State and represented his country in key diplomatic missions around the world. He brings a wealth of knowledge and insights on issues ranging from international security to economic development and human rights. We are privileged to have him with us today to share his perspective and engage in the dialogue with us. After his keynote speech, I'll have the pleasure to read a few questions sent by our participants. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Ambassador Mark Brzezinski.
This morning. Thank you, Michał, Camille, Foundation, for the invitation and for organizing such an expansive forum to ensure young people are prepared to navigate the next steps in your educational journey. It's such a privilege for me to be here with my embassy team, alongside Polish government officials, business leaders, educators here in Poland. And I'm also so glad that Belarusian opposition leader Svetlana Tsikhanouskaya has been here. We're grateful for her leadership and for her work to promote democracy and universal human rights in Belarus. When I was in the private sector, I'm a political appointee as U.S. ambassador. So I came to this job as U.S. ambassador to Poland from the business community. But I used to go on television to talk about the democratic opposition in Belarus. And I used to say on television, I support Svetlana, and it's been such an honor for me to meet her, to get to know her, and to support her on behalf of the US government. Drodzy studenci, począwszy od sytuacji na Białorusi, po wojnie w Ukrainie. W otaczającym nas świecie jest wiele powodów do niepokoju. Chcę jednak, żebyście wiedzieli, że jest nadzieja. To wy dajecie mi tę nadzieję. The young people of Poland have stepped up in remarkable ways to help your neighbors in need. I'm so proud of what the young generation has accomplished. You have in many ways introduced yourselves to the world in the most profoundly beautiful way because you've done something larger than yourself. You've helped a neighbor in need. You have led with heart and empathy in welcoming millions of refugees here. And I've seen particularly the young people in the lines of cars heading east to the border in Medica, heading east to the border crossing at Korchova and so forth. And it has been amazing that what you have done for the Ukrainian refugees. Some have stayed and become your classmates, your roommates, and your friends. This reactive mobilization in Poland is something that President Biden has said to you directly and has said to me to tell you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. What you are doing is incredible. The support you are giving to the people of Ukraine is making such a difference, and it is seen around the world. Whether you're organizing a clothing drive or welcoming a new friend to class or sharing your home with complete strangers, it all matters. And we know it's difficult. We know it's difficult to host a family that you expected to host for 2 months, and 16 months, you're still hosting them. It's hard work, it's expensive, and you continue to do it. And we see that, and we are so grateful. People all over the world praise what the Polish people are doing on behalf of the Ukrainians. And the U.S.-Polish relationship in the time of crisis is also now reaching new heights. We are better allies. We are better friends. We have never done as much together as we are doing now on military, on security, on humanitarian relief, on business to business, on bringing our people together. It's an incredible moment in the American-Polish relationship. I was just sitting next to a young man who was telling me that he's applying for a scholarship to study in the United States. I'm so glad to hear that you're applying for a scholarship in the United States. Please do come to the U.S. See what we're doing in the U.S., what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what we can do better. It's a remarkable time when Americans and Poles can learn from each other. This truly is a pivotal moment in history. What is happening in Central Europe today is remarkable because what we have shown is that a collective response by working together is the most effective response. And if there's a theme that I would leave to you this morning in terms of the geopolitics of today, it's that a collective response is the most effective response. We're seeing that in security. Poland is safe. Poland is safe because it is part of a collective military response. It is part of NATO, and as a result, Polska jest bezpieczna I Polska jest zabezpieczona. You are safe and secure because you are part of a collective undertaking. The same thing in terms of humanitarian relief. Poland is right next to Ukraine, so you have taken most of the load on your shoulders, but others are sharing and joining in this challenge. When I was going to the community of interest meeting at the border in Rzeszów, I was so proud to see the Australians, the Japanese, the Swiss, the Swedes, the Brits, and so many other countries as part of this response. We need each other to solve the problems our world faces. This sense of purpose, of working together, can also be directed in so many other directions. For example, some of the very topics of this forum, climate change, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, are areas where Poland and America can work closer together. Students, the weight of the world may feel like it's on your shoulders, but just being here today will lighten the burden and set you up for success. I know there are many of you that have dreams of studying in the U.S. The process of applying to an American university or seeking an exchange program can seem so daunting, but it is so worth it. I encourage you to make that jump, to take that risk, and to seize that moment. There was a famous British Prime Minister named Benjamin Disraeli, and he once famously said, "Travel teaches tolerance." There's nothing like foreign travel to learn from and to grow from. Another famous saying, this one from the famous Czech author Franz Kafka. He said, "For every language you know, another life you live." So learn foreign languages. They are a window to the world. For every language you know, another life you live. I tell you this because I'm someone who's been there. I was in your shoes decades ago. My first introduction to Poland was when I applied for a Kościuszko Foundation grant, and I spent an awesome summer in Kraków learning about Polish history. And I discovered a deeper understanding of what it means to be a Polish American, what it means to have a ski at the end of your last name. Brzezinski, of course, is what I'm saying. A year after I studied in Kraków, I became a Fulbright scholar in Poland, and I would go on to write a book about Poland's constitutional heritage and renewal. Though I didn't know it at the time, those couple of years were incredibly informative to me in preparing me to become U.S. Ambassador to Poland, especially at this time. It charted much of the course for the rest of my life. Alumni of programs such as Fulbright, the Kościuszko Foundation Fellowship, and others are among my top day-to-day contacts in every key sector in the U.S.-Poland relationship, from all levels of government to business, technology, academia, media, and culture. It is truly a long-term relationship, one that is an investment both by the individual student and fellow and the organization or agency which funds the exchange. In addition to studying, there are exciting opportunities to participate in internships in the United States. And so I also invite you to apply for internships in the United States and to learn from those. And one of the many examples of an internship is Fulbright Poland's Biolab program. Fulbright Scholarship Poland's Biolab program, which provides valuable experience working in American research labs. And America and Poland are getting closer and closer together in terms of scientific exchange, technology exchange. Poland has decided to build a civil nuclear power program to power your future. And this country will need technicians, engineers who understand the civil nuclear industry. And so an internship like the Fulbright Poland's Biolab program is one possibility for someone interested in growing into that industry, which will be a growing industry in Poland and Central Europe. And you don't have to wait until your 20s, as I did, to study or to intern abroad. You can start as early as in high school, participating in an exchange such as FLEX. That's the Future Leaders Exchange Program, the FLEX program. Each year, high school students travel to the United States for a fully funded year of study at a public high school in the United States. They live with American families, they join sports teams, they join clubs and activities, and experience regular life as American teenagers do. It is an absolutely invaluable experience, this FLEX program, and FLEX alumni with whom I have met during my time as ambassador are absolute rock stars doing incredible things at their schools and in their communities. The Polish-American community plays such a pivotal role in youth advancement as well. I was in Chicago last week meeting with the Polish-American community, and one of the big questions of Polish-American leaders is, what more can we do to support the education and the academic and scholarly growth of Polish young people? What resources can we provide? And that is a great question and a great offer, and it's an opportunity for them to fund your bright ideas and future endeavors. Take advantage of these opportunities. I like very much what I was asked when I was sitting here before I was introduced by this young man who's applying for a scholarship to study in the United States. He asked me, what kind of questions will I be asked? What should I say in the interview for this scholarship? Darn right you should ask me that. That's an opportunity to ask a U.S. ambassador what I will be expecting. Good job on you for asking that question. Take every advantage, seize every opportunity, because the future is yours, but you have to make it yours. You have to exploit every opportunity you have to get an advantage, to advance yourself, because it is a really competitive and hard world out there, but you can do it. So I have a few practical pieces of advice to share with you beyond going for it, like I was just describing it. Seize every opportunity. First, don't be afraid to fail. And that's one big cultural difference between America and Poland. I see. In America, people are almost proud if they have failed after trying not once, but several times. I can think of a U.S. senator who's a personal friend of mine, who on his campaign would say he went into bankruptcy 3 times before he built a successful multi-million-dollar business. He failed 3 times before building a successful business because he was striving to succeed, and hardly anyone succeeds in their first round. So do not be afraid to fail. Innovation is just repeated failure. It is the greatest lesson you can learn in life. You will fail several times, but how you get back up matters. And I'll share this personal story with you. Whenever I've had a number of different disappointments in my life, and when my father was alive, he would say, "Mark, make this a disappointment and not a defeat." And he said, there's a difference. A defeat is something that brings you down and keeps you down. A disappointment is something that sets you back, for sure, and it's hard, it's painful, but you learn from it and you grow from it and you're stronger for it. And he told me his story. This is Zbigniew Brzezinski of Poland, who didn't speak English until he was 15 years old. He had gone to Harvard as a graduate student. He finished his PhD at Harvard in 3 years, which is really quick. He then became an associate professor at Harvard University, met my mother, who was an art professor, and they were living in Boston, Massachusetts, expecting to live there for the rest of their lives. And then Harvard fired him. They told him, "You're done. You have to leave." They told Zbigniew Brzezinski, "You're not going to stay here anymore. You have to go find a professorship somewhere else." And he and my mom, my father and my mother, stayed up for 3 days and 3 nights not knowing what to do because they had thought they would be at Harvard in Boston for the rest of their life. And my father said, "What more should I have done? What can I learn from this setback?" And he said, "I have to branch out more than, I want to have a life as a professor, but in addition to being a professor, I want to reach out to the business community, to the private sector, to the banking community, to the finance community." So my dad and my mom moved to New York City. My father became a professor at Columbia University, but equally importantly, he started working in Wall Street. He became an advisor to Wall Street banks, and he got to know someone named David Rockefeller, who was then CEO of Chemical Bank, and he became an advisor of David Rockefeller, and he and Rockefeller set up the Trilateral Commission, which became the organization for rising political stars in Europe, America, and Asia to join. One of the people who joined the Trilateral Commission was then governor of the state of Georgia, Jimmy Carter. And when Nixon was removed from office because of Watergate, my father said to Jimmy Carter, "You're the perfect antidote to Watergate. You should run for the US presidency." And 2 years later, President Carter was elected, and my father, as a Polish immigrant to America, became his national security advisor. The worst nightmare for the Soviet Union, to have a Polish immigrant to America as the US national security advisor. And my father served that role for 4 years, something he would have never done had he remained a professor at Harvard and not been fired by Harvard. And after the Carter administration was done, Harvard came back to him and said, "We can offer you the professorship that you wanted." And my father said, "No, I've moved on from that." So don't be afraid to fail. And when you have failure, and you will have failure in your life, make sure it is a disappointment and not a defeat. Lesson number 1. Lesson number 2. No man or woman is an island. You guys have to build your network. There's a great saying in America, you are your network. That's the multiplier effect if you have friends and advisors and people who are mentors and stuff like that to help you move forward. And if you're shy, like I was when I was little, get over it. You have to build your network. And I'm so glad to see Our Future Forum is providing you with a mentorship program. Mentors can empower you to achieve your goals. Social media and the internet have made it so much easier to build not just a network in your community or a network in your country, but a network around the world. Start working on that today because your network is everything. Third, know what it is that you want to do. If you're a person like me who, at bottom, what do I like to do? I like to meet people and I like to try to solve problems. And so, in the private sector, that's what an attorney does. An attorney meets people and tries to solve problems. And in government, that's what a diplomat does. Tries to meet people, likes to meet people, and tries to solve problems. So whether you're a researcher, a writer, or talker, just be incredibly honest with yourself as to what it is that you really love to do. Because if you love to do it, you're going to do it well. But you have to be honest with yourself in finding out what it is that you love to do and then pursue it with every ounce of your being. These kinds of decisions cannot be made by ChatGPT. It's something you need to decide on your own. I hope that each of you, now that you're part of Our Future Forum, sees the opportunity to build a network and to make change. But I want to close by saying this. I am incredibly enthusiastic and believe so much in the young generation of Poland. What you have done for this country in 2022 and 2023, something larger than yourself, has reintroduced this country to the world in the most glorious way. I am so proud to be the U.S. ambassador to Poland. I'm so proud to be the U.S. ambassador to you at this time. I'm looking forward to your questions. Thank you for having me this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for this inspiring speech. Our participants have prepared some questions for you, so please let me read them out. So the first question sent to us is, how the Russian aggression influenced the NATO alliance as well as Polish-American relations?
How has the Russia's aggression impacted the NATO alliance and the U.S.-Polish relationship? Well, it has proven the thesis that collective defense and NATO membership works. Poland is safe and Poland is secure. If there's any lesson from this moment of Russia's attack on Ukraine, it's that collective defense, working together with countries around the world, is the best way to send the message to Russia, don't come here, don't tread on me. And I think that's lesson number one. Lesson number two, it proves that NATO expansion was the right thing to do in the late 1990s, and NATO expansion was the right thing to do in the early 2000s. I lived in Poland in the early 1990s. I remember hearing the Soviet troops jogging around Krakow in their morning jogs, singing their songs. Poland was anxious and uncertain at that time. And today, in 2023, we're right on the edge of a war zone, and the country is as normal, and it's thriving. Kids go to school in the morning. People go to work. American investors, I can report to you, are very attracted to what they see in Poland. NATO expansion was the right thing to do. With regard to the U.S.-Polish relationship, we've never been closer. This is a thriving relationship between governments and between people. And I have to salute previous U.S. ambassadors who took part in the expansion of NATO, who took part in bringing Poland into the visa waiver program, who made it easier for us to work together militarily, and who made it easier for us to meet up personally. Those were great contributions that they made, and we are thriving today in part because of their legacy. But this relationship, the U.S.-Polish special friendship, is in many ways making lemonade out of lemons out of the Ukraine crisis, because we have never been as close. And I will make a prediction for you. I predict, one, the Ukrainian people will win. They will toss the Russians out of Ukraine, and then will come a moment, and you guys have to be prepared for that moment. Sometime soon, I don't know when, and I hope sooner rather than later, after the Ukrainians win, there will be a remarkable moment in Central Europe in which we help Ukraine rebuild, we help it transform, and we help it orient towards Europe. Poland will have a critical role in that, and that will be a huge economic, and it will be a huge geostrategic moment in Central Europe. And it will be an opportunity for you, whether you go into business or politics or government. And the time to start preparing for that is now.
Thank you. Yeah, I have my own now. So as the second question, I want to ask you, as the war in Ukraine continues, people might begin to question the cost, duration, and level of support they are prepared to continue giving this war. How to sustain the needed support towards the Ukrainian nation and its troops?
I was in Washington, D.C. last week before I went to Chicago, and I very much wanted to explore whether there was any regression, any ebbing back of the support of Ukraine on Capitol Hill, in American political life. And I can report to you that there is a strong degree of support for what the Ukrainians are doing as they defend themselves. And part of it is simply because we're able to see what they're going through now. It's easier to see and experience far around the world that's happening because of iPhones, because people share what's happening via social media. And we, the Americans, see the video coming out of Ukraine that is reminiscent of World War II. And that's not okay. So I visited Washington, I visited Chicago, and I am here to tell you that I do not think that there is a truly large regression in support for supporting the Ukrainian people.
Thank you. The next question is, in times of green and digital transition, has the Ukrainian crisis accelerated or sabotaged directions towards global energy transition mechanisms?
The Ukraine crisis has put into stark clarity the need to modernize energy sources all across Central Europe. Central Europe had to wean itself away from the twin addictions of coal and Russian-sourced energy. And the good news is that Poland is well underway with that. I'm so pleased that the Polish government has selected Westinghouse as the provider of the technology for Poland's civil nuclear power program, and that Bechtel, a top world-class brand construction company, will construct the first AP1000 nuclear power plants in Poland. And this is a big need for you and your generation. This generation is going to do so much. You're going to more fully meet the potential of this company than this country than previous generations have in Poland, but you need the power to do it. I served as U.S. ambassador to Sweden between 2011 and 2015. Sweden at 9.5 million people, at one point had 12 nuclear power plants. Poland at 40 million people has no nuclear power plants. The fact that you all are now making progress on building the first 3 nuclear power plants is absolutely critical to your energy security, and you all deserve it. Poland, of course, deserves to be free, but Poland also deserves to prosper and to thrive. Poland deserves to prosper. You deserve to prosper and to thrive, and you need power and energy to do it. And in this part of the world, the most reasonable source for mass energy sourcing is a civil nuclear power program. I'm also pleased that GE Hitachi is making progress to build many small modular reactors in Poland. That will also source your energy future. This energy transformation in Central Europe is one of the core keels, one of the core foundations of the American-Polish relationship today. It's a daring thing for you to do. It's an expensive thing to do. One thing I make very clear to my bosses in Washington, D.C., is that Poland is not a wealthy country. You've done well in manufacturing, but it's not a wealthy country. You have to dig into your pockets to get this money to pay for the nuclear power plants, and you're doing it because it's the right investment for your generation.
Thank you. These are all questions that we had time today for. So thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for your thorough and wise answers. On behalf of all the young people gathered at today's conference, I want to thank you for your inspiring speech. I think that your words have touched the hearts and minds of all of the young leaders present here, and we are honored to have had the opportunity to learn from you and your rich experience and insights. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you, Olga. Powodzenia. The future is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jeszcze raz wielkie podziękowania. Ja widzę na sali wielkie poruszenie i z pewnością Państwo nie mogą się już doczekać, żeby porozmawiać o tym wszystkim, ale proszę pozostać na miejscach, dlatego że bez żadnej przerwy rozpoczniemy kolejny panel.